Welcome to this video in the Search for Better Health topic. This video is going to provide you with a bit of an introduction to this syllabus dot point. It's definitely not going to be enough for you to be able to meet the requirements of this dot point, but it's going to give you a bit of background information before going to class and investigating the immune response further. So the dot point we're going to start looking at is 9.4.52. Describe and explain the immune system in the human body in terms of the interaction between B and T lymphocytes, the mechanisms that allow the interaction between B and T lymphocytes, and the range of T lymphocyte types and the differences in their roles. So up until now, we've been looking at the first and second line of defense, which we have been referring to as non-specific defense mechanism. So once the body becomes under attack by a foreign organism, the first line of defense will try to stop the pathogen from getting in the first place. So we know that the first line of defense is made up of the skin, mucous membranes, cilia, chemical barriers, and other body secretions. If that doesn't work, then the second line of defense kicks in, which includes the inflammatory response, phagocytosis, lymph system, and cell death to seal off pathogens. So both of those lines of defense will fight any pathogen that the body comes in contact with. Now, if both of those lines of defense fail, we then have the need for a specific defense mechanism that helps to target the exact pathogen that is combating or fighting the body. And then that brings us to the third line of defense, which is known as the immune response, and involves the interaction between B and T cells, as you may have guessed from the syllabus dot point for this video. So let's have a look at the immune response. So the immune response involves a set sequence of events with interactions between the B and the T cells, which is necessary to complete a specific immune response. Okay, so the B and the T cells will work in different ways. So we know that there's different types of T cells. The B cells work to create plasma cells and therefore create antibodies to combat the antigen. So they need to be able to interact with one another in order to coordinate this massive process of the immune response. So first, when a pathogen enters a human body tissue, antigen-detecting macrophages will engulf the antigen in the process of phagocytosis and display the antigen on its surface. So the surface where the macrophage surface where the antigen is displayed is known as the MHC marker site, or the major histocompatibility site. And this represents proteins produced by humans, which we know are identified as self, and proteins produced by other organisms, which are foreign or non-self. So the macrophages that have undergone the process of photosynthesis and are now showing the antigen on their surface will move to the lymph nodes in the lymph system to present the antigen to the B and the T cells. So remember, the lymph nodes are part of the lymph system where the B and the T cells they just hang out waiting for the action. So the macrophages take the antigens to the lymph nodes in order for the B and T cells to get into gear. So the presence of these antigens activate helper T cells. So they're one of the 4 types of T cells, which in turn activate and attach to B cells, which make it possible for the B cells to start the production of specific Y-shaped antibodies to fight the specific foreign antigen that's taking over. So this process is possible because the B cells will respond to cytokines, which are chemicals. This is possible because the B cells will respond to cytokines, which are chemicals produced by the helper T cells, and divide into plasma cells. So it's these plasma cells that produce antibodies, and the B cells will also divide into memory B cells. So the memory B cells stay in our immune system, and they're used to fight future infections. So if we're infected or the same antigen, we come in contact with the same antigen again, the memory B cells that are hanging out in our immune system are able to act quicker, and therefore we're able to respond faster, so we don't get as sick, or we don't even realize that we've come in contact with the antigen. The body is able to work fast enough. So Y-shaped antibodies will be released to attack foreign antigens or toxins in other part of the body. So the antibodies then travel back out from the lymph nodes to the site of infection and help to attack those foreign antigens. Cytotoxic or killer T cells, so they're our second type of T cells, will also be mobilized by interleukins. So this is a different chemical that's produced by the helper T cells to destroy the cells that are infected with viruses and to kill other pathogens directly, such as bacteria, protozoa, fungi, worms, transplanted tissue, or cancer cells. So remember that anything that displays a non-self antigen is going to be targeted by these cytotoxic T cells. Okay, so the thing that we've got here is that cytotoxic T cells will attack cells that are infected with viruses. So this goes back to what we were talking about, how pathogens work. So viruses need to be inside a body cell in order to be able to be infective. So the killer T cells will destroy the cells that have the viruses in them or will directly kill the pathogens. We will also produce memory T cells. So just like we produce memory B cells, we produce memory T cells, which will help to fight reinfection in the future as well. So there are 4 types of T cells. We've got, there's only 3 types. So the 4 types are the helper T cells, which kick off the immune response by triggering the action of the B cells and the cytotoxic T cells. So that's our second type of T cell. We also have our memory T cell. And the 4th type that we haven't got mentioned here are our suppressor T cells. And their job is to, once the immune response has done its job and the antigen's been combated, the suppressor T cell comes in and goes, all right, guys, calm down. We're all good, and sends everybody home. So this little flowchart just summarizes into 4 fairly simple points. The immune response is much more detailed than 4 points, but this just puts it into 4 fairly straightforward sections. So first off, the macrophage engulfs the foreign particle through the process of phagocytosis. The antigen on the foreign particle is then displayed on the outside of the macrophage, and the macrophage carries the antigen to the lymph nodes. Once in the lymph nodes, the macrophage activates the helper T cells, which are specific to the antigen presented on their surface. These T cells may also be activated by B cells, which are carrying that antigen marker on them as well. And the B cells bind themselves to the antigens and take them to the T cells in order to activate them. Chemicals, in particular interleukin-2, helps to activate more T cells, such as our killer T cells, as well as macrophages and B cells, which then help to destroy the foreign particles. So as you can see, this is really just a little bit of an introductory video to get your head around the idea that the B cells and the T cells have to work together in order to carry out a specific immune response. And we've got a certain number of steps that need to take place in certain order in order for these pathogens to be combated and to stop the disease symptoms from being exhibited. And that brings us to the end of this video. So thank you for watching.